Yeah, so creating the pitch or the presentation and what you should include and maybe what you shouldn't. The things, of course, can change depending on the event where you are pitching. Sometimes there is this criteria what has to be included obligatory. I mostly included the things that we usually have asked in different but similar events. And the parts that we are looking or asking the teams usually to tell about is so the idea, and of course not only the idea that you have for what you want to build, but also you have to mention what's the problem that you will solve with your idea, and then is the business model, which goes for the things that how you will make the money, who is paying for your idea, how often, and things like that. And then there is the information about your market, not only about the size of the market, but also some trends in recent years, or maybe what's expected to happen in next year's competitors, because every idea has at least one, but in most cases, of course, multiple competitors that you'll have to go against. So you should know about them and also include that in your presentation, because that shows that you know the field in which you will be working or are working. Of course, the team, who are the people behind this, who are working on this, and yeah, your skills and roles in the team, and also the roadmap where you're basically telling the key things that you have achieved so far. I don't know, for example, if it's if you're pitching as part of this program, maybe you can include some key things that has happened during this program. So because then everyone knows the time frame of it, how long it was, and what was happening, and then of course you mentioned some key points that you plan to achieve in near future. Basically, the time period you choose yourself, but usually it's not like very detailed for the next 5 years. So you just mentioned a couple of, I don't know, points, let's say for the next year or half year, depending on how much milestones there will be. And yeah, these basic things before we go through each of the slides, but the basic things that you should always remember and know before you are pitching is the time, that how much time you are given to give this presentation. I guess it's 5 minutes in your case, so it's totally enough time to do the presentation, and also ask and be prepared if you have this time for Q&A or no, because one is then you know that how maybe not every detail you have to tell in your presentation, because that you can also mention in this Q&A part. But also you just have to be prepared, because for sure not everything you can include in the presentation or it's needed, but then you have to be prepared that somebody can ask this question in after the presentation, and it wouldn't be the best thing if you would say, okay, I'm not prepared to answer this question, or I don't know this information. Usually I know what to answer to these questions. It's not a must, just my personal preferences when only one person is giving the presentation, because usually when it's multiple people doing that gives a bit of school or university group project vibes, where the whole team goes on the stage to give a presentation and everyone wants to tell a small detail in 1 or 2 slides, which isn't, just in my opinion, not the best way, especially if there is some pauses between slides in that case, because you have to switch who is speaking. But in case you decide to do that, okay, you'll be pitching 2 of us or 3 people, try out your presentation multiple times, and maybe then it can be done if you can get this transition from one slide and one person to another person quite smoothly. So there wouldn't be this pause or not knowing who is telling about this slide. Yeah, so decide my preference. I think if one person goes on the stage, it's just easier and a bit better. About the text, I think that has been mentioned numerous times, at least here in Europe, in our part of Europe, we are the good practice is not to put too much text in the presentation. In different parts of the world, I know that yeah, they consider that it's better to put more text, but for us, it's usually less text is better in the slide. And the reason is that if the presentation is like this, where you go on the stage, or if it would be happening on Zoom and it would be a virtual event, you are giving this presentation. Basically, you have the slides, but you are telling the story. And in that case, the presentation is more like a visual thing. We just have to see the presentation, but you yourself are telling the story. If you wouldn't do the pitch and there would be only the slides, and I don't know, you would send the slides in and we would have to read the slides, then of course, maybe you can include more text, because then we have to understand this presentation by ourselves as you explaining it. But in this case, as you will be giving this presentation, then you can put less text, because if you include a lot of text, we see, okay, there is a slide there's a lot of text. We start to divide our attention as an audience. We maybe start to read the slide and then we don't listen to what you are saying. And that's just not the thing that you would want to achieve in your presentation. About the timeline, so if your presentation is next Friday on May 20, then the best, I know it's not usually the thing that happens, but should be ready a couple of days before, because it just gives you yourself a bit of confidence, and the mind is a bit calmer, that you know, okay, I'm prepared. There is nothing that changed in the last minute. Let's say now you start to prepare your presentation. Next Monday it's ready. Maybe you will try it out and then something will change, but more or less in the last day you will not do the last minute edits or changes. So you will go to the event and you already know your story that you want to tell from memory, and it's just a basic thing that that is a bit better. But of course, sometimes we still do the last minute changes. And about this first prepare content and then design, so you know what parts you need in presentation. So like what kind of topics you need this idea, you need to tell about your solution, team, business model, all these things. So first you gather all the info and write, for example, in just as a basic Word document, just plain text, you write your info that you would want to tell in your slides. And only when you have gathered this info or most of the info, then you start to put that information into the slides. Because if you do that, both things at the same time, for 10 minutes, you are gathering the information, then you start to think about, okay, how the design of the slides will look. You start to think and search for the best examples. Did that, then you again switch back to the searching of the info, which is not yeah, just makes it more difficult. So I think it's, and how I now also lately do that, you first find all the information and then you put that info into the slides. Then you know how much you will want to put on the slide, how much you will tell without putting that information in the slide, and so on. So I think it's just a bit easier way how to create this presentation. That at the beginning we find the content and then we put it on the slides. Yeah, so that's from the basic things. Now going through the slides. Once you will be on the stage and your presentation goes on the screen, because it's happening live, you will not have to ask this question, can you hear me, or can you see my screen? Everybody will be able to see you and hear you.
There will be a nice difference.
Yeah, something finally different from what it has been for the past 2 years. So start your presentation confident and take the attention of the audience. And I like this version when you go on stage and you introduce your team or company, whatever, mentioning the name, and then you have this one like key phrase where when you say it, the audience already knows what you are doing, and we kind of understand about what the presentation will be like. Basically, you come on, you say your team's name and this key sentence, what it is that you are doing. And we know that if, for example, you are, I don't know, creating some kind of software for business, by saying this sentence, we will know that the presentation won't be about, I don't know, selling healthy food in local market. So you go in, you tell this sentence, and the audience should have your attention and they know what to expect. And then, because it's like, doesn't matter if it's 3 or 5 minutes, you go on to speak about the problem. And when you speak about the problem, then you not only tell what is the problem, but you also mention for who this problem is. Try to be a bit more specific with your target customer. Without, I think it's not enough if you just say that this problem is, I don't know, for everyone from age 20 to age 50, but try to be a bit more specific for what kind of people or companies this problem exists. And you should also be able to show some kind of data that backs up on this problem, that you show something that proves that this problem really exists, not that you just have not discovered it, but that you created this problem basically yourself because somebody asked you to have the problem slide in your presentation. And the best way how to tell this problem would be if you would either you have it personally, and then you can like tell it from your perspective that you are one of the people who suffers from this problem, or you take some kind of imaginative person, let's say Tom, and then you start tell, okay, Tom is this guy who works in this kind of company, and he suffers from this and this. Because once you start tell it as from the story perspective, and there is some kind of hero in that story, gives a bit more emotional attachment to the presentation, also for the audience. Basically, you have to try to create these emotions, for the audience, that they really understand. Okay, this serious problem. This person really suffers from it. So how can we help? If you have some visualizations, which can be pictures, maybe you can add also these pictures. For example, I don't know, we would say there is a big problem of food waste in Baltics, and we would show how much food we are throwing out in our garbage cans, and at the same time there is some parts of the world where children suffer from hunger, and we could probably find some kind of pictures which visualize this thing. And once you have introduced the problem and hopefully have told it through the story, then you move on to the solution, which is or should be your idea, your product. So you introduce that, and then you are telling, okay, the Tom who suffered from this problem, now when he use our product or service, his life looks like this. Of course, it should be better than it was before. And if you have something to demonstrate, you can do it only, for example, if it's a digital product and you include some kind of screenshots from a computer, don't expect the audience to see all the small details from the screenshot in your slide. It's not always the thing. So the screenshots can be, maybe you can put them in some kind of mock-up in the phone or computer screen, but still the functions you have to name yourself, because we probably won't be able to see it from that picture. And if it's a physical thing and maybe you have something to give for the jury or audience in hands, maybe try to do that for the question and answer part, because once you give the physical thing or something to check in hands for the jury during your presentation, part of the audience will check how the product feels like and how it looks like, and they will not listen to your presentation anymore. So you can leave this touching and seeing closely the product for the Q&A part. More importantly than the checking the product itself, in the solution part, it doesn't have to be one slide. That's also a thing, but you have to show, if you can, of course, some data that proves that people are ready to use this kind of solution. If you have launched your product, then of course you show statistics about your business. If you haven't launched your product, then you could show that some statistics about how much people are spending on this issue right now, fighting with using different solutions. And I don't know if there would be some kind of issue and people are spending, let's say, 10 million annually on this issue, probably they would be willing to spend part of that money if you are if you have some kind of solution for this issue. So if you don't have your own data because the product is not launched, then you find some relevant data that could prove that people are ready to spend their resources on fighting with this problem. And about these reviews or testimonials, so if the product is launched, then of course you might have some reviews or comments from the customers. If not, maybe you can get some kind of testimonials about your idea where people from the industry actually backs up what you are doing, and they say, okay, this is really great. They can give you some kind of feedback about it. The best is if it's not just some random person from the internet or whatever, but if it would be somebody from the industry that you plan to work in, if they are sort of expert in that industry, and I don't know, if I would be listening to the presentation, I'm in the audience and the presentation is about, again, about the food tech, and I see somebody from the food industry, from some big company, or some other known person has given you a testimonial. Of course, that gives also for me a bigger belief that what you are developing is something meaningful, because usually, do we like the idea or not is quite subjective thing, but at the same time we might like or might not like your idea. But once you tell that, okay, our idea is this, and there is 1,000 people in the last 6 months who have used the product, or our idea is this, and the guy from the industry has said that this is really what they are looking for. Once you have this information, the audience can't put their own subjective opinion about your idea, because there is somebody who backs up that is good, and it's needed. So the statistic or some kind of testimonial would be really needed, because yeah, then you can show them in the slide, and the people who maybe don't like personally your idea can't say anything because you have statistic that proves how good it is. About the market, usually there is these numbers about the total market and how much of that, how big part of that market you are planning to get, like, because of course not the whole market will be using your product, or you also can't reach the whole market. So one is these numbers, but more importantly, you also have to find some kind of statistics about what's happening in the market in the recent years. Is the market growing? Especially if you would pitch for some investors, nobody would want to invest in a company which is working in the market that is not growing, or is maybe even getting smaller by every year. And sometimes, especially here in Europe, you can find information about, is there any legal changes coming up? And if you can find something that might impact also your market, then you can include, I don't know if that has to be included in the slides, but you can mention it in your pitch that, I don't know, by year 2024, there will be regulation from European Union that every country has to have this and this, because once it's in the regulation, then it's a must. And everybody knows that, okay, there will be growing demand for that. To give example, by some year in Norway, or it's already reached or not, they have to have a certain number of electric cars in the country. So you know that if you are in the Norway, the electric car market for sure will be growing, because the country has set some regulation on that. There was a year in Latvia when everybody had to buy this fire alarm in their flat or house. Has to be at least one fire alarm. Probably not everyone still has it, because nobody actually went to check them, but for sure there was a spike in how much these fire alarm sets was bought in Latvia, because there was just a new rule that everybody needed. So if you can find something like this, that also might help you to prove that there will be demand for your idea. On the business model, usually it's asked in most of the presentations where you're pitching the business idea. The business model just goes about how you're making the money, and it's not about that you sell it once and in that way you earned $100, but how you're basically sustaining your business and doing it repeatedly. So who will be paying for you? How often they are paying? Is it like one-time purchase, or they are paying you some kind of subscription fee, or maybe it's not subscription fee, but because they bought something from you once, they are kind of attached to your brand also in the future, and maybe through different revenue streams, they are still paying for you. How it was, for example, with this Nestle coffee pots that now, of course, there are many companies who provide this because the patent is ended. But once they started, it was the Nestle created this coffee machine, which itself doesn't cost that much. But once you buy it, you can't use any other coffee. It's only these coffee pots, which I don't know, four times more. And because you have this coffee machine, you actually can't buy any other coffee than from this brand. So you repeatedly get this money from the customer in the future as well. So if you have something like this, then definitely mention. About the costs, see as it fits. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe it has. There is no need to include that in the slide, but definitely be ready to answer that question, because you can show cool numbers about how much you will get, how much money you will get as a revenue in your business. But I don't know, if your revenue every month would be 10,000, at the same time your costs are 9,000, then it doesn't seem so cool anymore. So about the costs, maybe if you see that it doesn't go into the slides, just prepare this information if somebody asks you something about how much it costs for you to create the product, or how much it costs to sustain the business, and things like that. The competitors, mention a couple of your main competitors that people can choose instead of you. And of course, you should tell how you are better or different from these competitors, how you will make yourself different, why people should switch from one company to your company and start to use your solution instead. If it's a software product, then in most cases there is these comparison tables where you have some core features from each product mentioned, and then 5 of the features are the same for everyone, and then you have some 2 features that are only for your product, and you can mention that in the table. Later on, I will show the examples of some slides, how they can look like, and then we'll see this competitor comparison as well. On the team, of course, one of the most important parts in your presentation, who are the people working on this idea. Here you can mention the roles in the team, who is responsible for what or doing what, and of course the past experience. Again, you don't have to put much information or big description about each person on the slides. You just can tell it in the story that this guy has done that, and that person has done that, and all this. In case you would have everyone from your team has worked in a known company. I don't know. One of you has worked in Accenture, one of you has worked in PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of you has worked in Google. Of course, then you can include the company logos in the team slide as well, because maybe we don't know specific roles, but if we see that, okay, this guy has worked in Google, that gives some kind of credibility for that person, that we know, okay, probably he's not bad if he could have worked in that company. So that gives some kind of credibility for the team as well. But if the companies are not known, then I probably would go with naming some skills or experience that that your team have, and wouldn't mention the company itself. Sometimes for these companies or teams has some advisors. So if you have them, you can mention these persons as well, but mention them one if you feel that the people in the audience will know these advisors. So that's a good case to mention them. Second, if they have a huge experience in the field that you are planning to work in, you can somehow show that. And the third, of course, you don't mention people who maybe you met only once or twice in past 6 years. Usually people mention them if when you have agreed with these persons that you will include them in the slides, and also maybe you meet with them every month and they are actually advising you on your business. Then I would count them as an advisor and would include in my slide, team slide as well. It can be also in separate slides. So in one slide you have the core team, and in different slide you put these advisors. Yeah, and then the roadmap. So as I said, what are the key milestones that you have achieved so far, and what are the things that you plan to achieve, let's say next in next year? And usually when you show the roadmap, you don't just mention the milestone, you also mention the time period when it could happen. So let's say now it's May. You say that in August 2022, we are launching our product. And by December of 2022, we are planning to get 1,000 customers. By next year, May, we are planning to raise that much money. So if you have these plans in place, of course, mention them in this roadmap slide as well, because then for the audience, we understand, okay, this is what you did so far, and this is how big you are planning to go in next months or in this time period that you are showing in that slide. Yeah, and you conclude your presentation with mentioning maybe your long-term vision. If this actually the long-term vision somehow goes together with the roadmap itself, but if you started your presentation by introducing yourself, the team, and this one key sentence, you finish it somehow similarly with giving one sentence that makes again everyone feel like, okay, this is super cool. And if you can make that maybe you have a website that people can visit, so you can make your presentation with call to action that, hey, here is the QR code, or here is the link, visit our site and try it out, or say that, okay, we are team this and we are interested to speak with people from HR. So if you are one of them, let's meet after the presentation. Or if you're a team looking for investment, you can mention, okay, we are this, and right now we are looking for an investment in the company. So if you're an investor, we would like to speak with you. Basically, you end your presentation with some kind of ask for the audience, you say them what they have to do next after your presentation. And then it just, yeah, the presentation ends and you have time for this Q&A with the jury. I will send the slides afterwards to Linda, and then yeah, it can be shared with others. And here's a couple of links that I have included about creating the presentations. You can check definitely that blog post from Y Combinator where they are also telling about how the slide should be created from the sort of technical perspective, how big the font should be, the colors in the slides, and things like that. So you can check that. In the YouTube video, there is one pitch coach from Netherlands talking, and he also has created this pitch canvas. The pitch canvas might help you to structure your story, so you can check it. The pitch canvas is available for free. Yeah, maybe it will be useful for you. Maybe not. Just check it out. And the starter pitch deck, that link leads to Airtable sheet where you will find some links to pitch decks from known companies when they started out, so you will be able to see how the pitches or pitch decks looked for them. Yeah, a couple of solutions or place where you can create a presentation. Of course, everyone has some kind of software on their computers, either it's PowerPoint or Keynote, but then there is also quite good online service where you can create these presentations. One that I'm using also right now is this pitch.com, and pitch.com, also in Canva and this beautiful AI, there are ready-made templates that you can use with templates specifically for startup pitch decks, templates for pitch decks for software companies, pitch decks for apps and things like that. So you can use one of the templates and just switch the information, and it also will give you the sense of what kind of content you should include in this slides and how much content is asked to include. Speaking about the contents and slides, also don't overthink how much slides you have, because it doesn't matter how big number of how many slides you have included. What matters is how you basically go from one slide to another one, how the story flow. So it can be, for one, it can be 20 slides and someone else will put 8 slides and the post presentations will look good. So the number of slides doesn't matter that much. Yeah, and then there is the examples of slides so that I have gathered from different presentations. Maybe it will be useful as an inspiration about how to put the problems. Here is the market validation, how it was shown by Airbnb. So they didn't have the product yet, but they showed that, okay, in couch surfing, which was, I think the service still works, where you also could rent a bed at other people's houses to stay overnight. So they showed, okay, in couch surfing, there is this many people that are using this service. Craigslist, which is equivalent of SS.lv site in Latvia, they showed how many listings there is for these temporarily housing in USA. So it just gives a sense that, okay, there is a market. Similarly with this service slide being, they showed how much of Google monthly search there are worldwide about presentation tools. And this kind of statistic about the monthly search in Google, you can also find it online for any idea. So the statistic, it's possible to get it. The market size, yeah, what I said about this total market and then the serviceable market, and actually the part that you are planning to reach, just the same information showed in different visual ways. And it does mean you have to show it like this. You can maybe find another way as well. The traction So also maybe you don't have the real customers or users of the product, that maybe you have the social media presence and you have some kind of community which is following already you and your company. So you can also include that kind of information in the instruction slides that will show that, okay, it's not an idea only, but you have somebody who is following or using this product. Of course, that depends on the stage you are in at that moment. And the competitor comparison, yeah, as I mentioned, so usually it's in two ways. Either it's this kind of table where you have these features, and then you show which features don't have your competitors, but you have them, and that will make people to switch from the competitors to your product. Or you can create this kind of slide where you have these basically two key things showing that, okay, this product fits in that quadrant, they goes here, and we are alone here. We are in this best position. We have everything from the best. We are, in this case, in the slide, we are so less expensive, we are more convenient, and that will make people just use us and not our competitors. So check, yeah, which way would be best used for your case. Of course, if you don't want to create this kind of comparison, the least thing you should is to just put the names or logos of your competitors, so we actually can see that you have the competitors and you know them. But the roadmap, so the roadmap or timeline, again, you show what is already been done, and then there are a couple of points that you will do in next period. I'm not sure there is some kind of period which is necessary to include. I think you just have to choose how long of the period you want to show in the future. So just think about this and include these points again. What has been already done in this slide? They also have showed what's in the progress or happening right now, and what you will be doing next in the future. So yeah, that's about the road, and that's it.